Hey everyone, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. Today we want to talk about something we think a lot of English learners really need to hear. You're not lazy, you're just living real life while learning.
Yes. This one hits close to home, honestly. So many learners carry guilt. They say things like, I should study more, or I'm not serious enough, or even maybe I'm just lazy. And honestly, most of the time, that's just not true.
Right. Most of the time, you're juggling a million things, working, raising kids, taking care of people, dealing with life stuff, and on top of that, you're trying to learn a second language. That's not lazy. That's impressive.
Exactly. It's really unfair how hard we are on ourselves. Like, we wouldn't look at a friend working full-time and say, you're lazy for not doing 3 hours of English practice every day. But we say it to ourselves. Why?
And let's be real, learning a language while living a full life isn't just hard. It's exhausting sometimes. Even when you love the language, you won't always have the mental energy. And that doesn't make you weak or unmotivated. It makes you human.
Yes. And it's also important to say that motivation comes and goes. It's normal. Some days you'll feel excited and focused, and other days you'll just want to rest. That's not a failure. That's just your brain doing what it needs to do.
And the funny thing is, the people who think they're lazy are often the ones who are trying the hardest. They care. They are self-aware. They notice when they miss a day or forget a word. But they are still coming back to it. And that's what matters.
And you know what? Real progress doesn't come from being perfect every day. It comes from returning. From coming back to your English practice, again and again, even after busy days, even after a week off, even after you've doubted yourself.
Yeah. It's not the big, dramatic study sessions that make the difference, it's the quiet moments where you say, right, let me try again. Listening to a podcast on the bus. Reading a message twice to understand it better. Speaking to yourself while making tea.
Exactly. And we need to shift the conversation from, I didn't do enough today, to I did what I could today. Because some days, what you can do is just listen while you wash the dishes. Or repeat one phrase. And that's fine. That counts.
Totally. We're not robots, we've got moods, responsibilities, emotions. And English learning doesn't exist in a bubble. It lives inside all of that. Inside your schedule, your family life, your work hours, your tired brain at the end of a long day.
And when you're learning under those conditions, it takes courage. It takes strength. So no, you're not lazy. You're a person with a real life, and you're doing something really hard anyway. That's not something to feel guilty about. That's something to be proud of.
And maybe you haven't had time to review grammar this week. Maybe you keep forgetting certain words. But that doesn't erase the effort you are making. Don't let perfectionism blind you to your own dedication.
Yes, because it's so easy to forget that dedication doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's invisible. But it's there. Like when you're tired, but you still choose to listen to English before bed. Or when you pause to translate something in your head during the day. That's effort.
And honestly, those are the moments that build your English identity, the quiet decisions. Not the flashy study marathons. Not the language certificates. But those small, repeated acts of showing up, even when life isn't giving you a break.
I think it helps to remember that even native speakers don't learn perfectly. We forget things, too. We have days when our brains are fried. So why should second language learners expect perfection from themselves every single day?
Exactly. Learning isn't a race, and it's not a performance. It's more like a relationship. Sometimes it's easy and fun, and other times it's work. But it's yours. And just like any real relationship, it's worth sticking with, even when things get a bit messy.
And you don't owe anyone a perfect learner image. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to be slow. You're allowed to go at your pace. What matters is that the journey continues, even if it's not Instagram-worthy every day.
In fact, I'd argue the best kind of learning is the kind that fits into your life, not the kind that tries to replace it. Because if you can blend English into your reality, even just a little each day, you're building something that will last.
And when you build something that lasts, you don't need to rush. It becomes part of you. Like brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee, just another thing you do without needing to push yourself so hard every time.
That's the goal, isn't it? To make English part of your rhythm. Not a huge mountain you have to climb every day, but something that grows quietly with you. Through the chaos, through the laundry, through the phone calls and errands and all the bits of real life.
And when life gets a bit too loud, because it will, you don't need to panic about losing your progress. You're not starting from zero. Everything you've heard, everything you've repeated, every sentence you've built, it's still there.
Definitely. It's like watering a plant. You might miss a day or two, but the roots are still in the soil. They're not gone just because things got hectic. That quiet foundation you've been building, that stays with you.
And maybe you need to hear this today. You're not behind. You're just learning on a timeline that respects your life. A timeline that includes bad days, tired evenings, and all the other things that make you human.
So yeah, forget the label, lazy. It doesn't belong to you. You're doing something powerful, learning a new language while navigating the messiness of everyday life. That's not laziness. That's resilience.
Resilience, that's the word. Because showing up for yourself, even in small ways, especially when things aren't ideal, takes so much inner strength. Most people don't realize that. They think learning should only happen in silence, with free time and high energy. But real learners, they do it in the middle of real life.
Right. In between nappy changes, between double shifts, during a commute, while cooking dinner. That's where the real growth is happening, when no one's watching, when no one's praising you. And it matters just as much as any classroom achievement.
I think sometimes people wait for the perfect moment to get serious about English. But that moment almost never arrives. There's always something, a bill to pay, a kid to feed, an errand to run. So maybe it's not about waiting for the perfect moment, but learning to use the imperfect ones.
Absolutely. And you don't need an expensive course or a full hour of silence to practice. You just need a bit of awareness. A bit of intention. Talk to yourself while brushing your hair. Translate your to-do list in your head. Whisper a phrase under your breath while tidying up.
Those things count. People underestimate how powerful they are. It's like drops of water slowly shaping a rock. Over time, you build fluency not through big, dramatic efforts, but by returning to English over and over, especially when life is inconvenient.
So don't discount those little efforts. Don't think they're not enough. They're exactly what makes your English stronger, more natural, more you.
And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. At first, talking to yourself in English might feel weird, or translating your thoughts might feel slow, but over time, your brain gets faster. It adapts. And suddenly, you're just thinking in English without trying so hard.
Yeah, it becomes less about forcing it, and more about flowing with it. Like when you're walking down the street and you start describing the weather in English in your head, or you look at something and automatically think, oh, that's a mug, instead of translating from your first language.
That's such a good sign of progress. And it doesn't come from perfection. It comes from repetition. From showing up in those small windows of time when you could scroll your phone mindlessly, but instead, you say a few English phrases to yourself.
Exactly. We're not saying you have to be perfect every day. We're saying if you're choosing to make English even just part of your day, especially when life's a bit of a whirlwind, you're already doing something impressive.
And I think more learners need to hear that. That you don't need a peaceful life to make meaningful progress. You just need a decision, a small one, repeated often, to keep going, no matter what your surroundings look like.
Yeah, and if today all you managed was to repeat a phrase while washing your face or whisper a word while making dinner, that's still progress. Real, valid, human progress.
It is. And honestly, if your English journey feels a bit messy, just know it's because life is messy. But you're showing up anyway. You're making space for learning inside the chaos, and that's something to be proud of.
All right, that's where we'll wrap things up today. Just remember, your journey doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. You're not lazy. You're living real life. And you're still learning.
Thanks for joining us on the British Accent Podcast. Keep going, even if it's one word at a time. You're doing better than you think. Speak to you soon.